For those of you who have read the book, I don't want to repeat myself, so I'm going to tell a little bit different part of the story. Hopefully some of you will relate to my story, and maybe some of you will find some hope in it for yourselves. I was raised on a farm with 3 siblings. My parents worked very hard to support us, and I don't think any of us ever felt any lack or deprivation or anything like that. But money was always pretty scarce. My father opened a savings account for me when I was 10 years old, and I would sock away any gifts I got over the years for birthdays and things like that, saving for things I really wanted. And that was about the extent of my financial education. I did have some scholarships, and I made it through college okay with very little debt. Shortly before graduation, I got my first credit card, and there the trouble kind of began for me. At first, I was pretty careful to pay things off. But when I went to graduate school, financial aid for my program was pretty scarce, and I started using my credit cards a lot more and not paying them off. When I got out of grad school, I probably had a total of about $15,000 of student loans and probably about that much in credit cards too. So when I did move to Ohio a couple years later, I brought a pretty substantial amount of debt with me, along with a 13-year-old car that was just beginning to have some pretty major issues, as some of my friends who are here today can attest to. I pursued my hobby of the previous few years, and I started teaching at a local dance studio, but business was pretty slow and money was even slower. I managed to pay the rent on my little apartment, but the credit card debt began to grow again, and car repairs and unexpected medical expenses added to the burden of that. And that's kind of the situation I was in when I first heard about Bank on Yourself. And it was just a little over 5 years ago that I stumbled across the concept on the internet, and I read it through, and I was really skeptical. But at the same time, I remember thinking, wow, this makes so much sense. How come everybody isn't doing this? It just kind of felt like the missing piece of the financial picture that nobody had ever told me about. But like I said, I was really skeptical. And anyway, I thought, where would I ever get the money to start this thing? So even though it seemed interesting, it really seemed pretty impossible to me at the time. So I kind of pushed it aside, forgot about it for a little while. And things kind of continued to really not get any better. I started to get pretty desperate. I felt like things couldn't go on like they were, but I didn't really know how to make a change. I applied for some other jobs, but not really with much luck. And of course, I did a lot of praying. One day, I got one of Pamela's newsletters, email newsletters in my inbox, and I read it, and I thought, what was this about again? And so I dug out the report, and I reread it, and there was a form at the end, and I filled it out to request an appointment. And I thought, hey, it's free, right? You know, can't go too wrong. Maybe somebody can at least give me some guidance or some help of some sort. A couple days later, a nice lady named Rita, and she's in the back there. Hi, Rita. She called me and scheduled an appointment for me. I remember walking in and seeing this serious, professional-looking guy in a tie waiting for me at the table, and I just wanted to turn around and run away. And I am so happy I did not. On our second appointment, John presented some ideas to me and also told me I needed to increase my income right away. Well, kind of knew that, but it gave me the impetus to do it. And my second lesson in humility was taking a job at a local fast food restaurant for the first time in my life at the age of 28. I worked there for 3 months. I would get up at 5 a.m., drive to work in my freezing cold, falling apart car, help open the restaurant, sweep the snow out of the parking lot, pick up trash, and clean the grease traps, among other things. After the lunch rush, I would hurry to the dance studio, change out of my greasy uniform in the bathroom, and teach until 9 p.m. Some days I was on my feet for about 15 hours or so. This was perhaps the hardest 3 months of my life in some ways. But looking back, I wouldn't trade it for anything. That experience taught me that it is truly possible to turn your life around if you're willing to do what it takes and take a chance on something new. In the meantime, I met with John several more times. To my surprise, he didn't think I should wait to start the process, and he showed me how I could start right away using that old 403B plan that I had pretty much forgotten about. That was another big challenge for me, to cash out what I had been taught by everyone would someday be my retirement. I struggled with that a little bit, and the rest, as they say, is history, at least if you read the book. If you haven't, there's plenty of copies back there. I would like, however, before I close, to fast forward to present day, just for a moment and give you a little update, because the interview in the book was done over a year ago now. Last July, I purchased a low-mileage, 2-year-old, cute little red Scion using a loan from my Bank on Yourself policy. This was the first car that I've paid for entirely using my policy. I love, love, love my cute little car. And those of you who have been able to pay cash for a car can attest to how easy it is. Minimal paperwork, easy negotiations. I have my title within a week. But the best part is paying myself back and knowing I'll be able to do this every time I buy a car for the rest of my life, even if I never started another policy and just kept that same little one I started with originally. I did, however, start a second policy last April, about twice the size of the first one, and it's doing quite well, though I haven't borrowed from that one yet. Next Thursday, I'm leaving to spend 10 days on the coast of Croatia, which is the most beautiful place on earth, at least in my opinion. This much-needed vacation was paid for, of course, with a loan from my first Bank on Yourself plan. If I wanted to, I could vacation in Croatia every year for the rest of my life. I like variety, so I probably won't, but you never know.